a thumbs up to let you know that that's now. Okay, so hello and welcome. I'm so glad, really glad that you're here with us today. So in this session, we're going to be exploring something that many of us feel deep down, and that's a call or a stirring towards something more. But we're often not sure what that looks like or how it fits into kind of our daily work. So today we're going to be discovering how to uncover your unique marketplace assignment, that kind of intersection between your gifts, your calling, and opportunity, and unlock your leadership confidence towards that area. So by the end of the session, we're looking for you to understand how God's calling shows up in your daily work, go through some practical steps of how to kind of identify and activate your marketplace assignment, and get a sense of how owning your leadership identity can give you more boldness and purpose in the way that you lead. So that's what we're going to do today. But first, I just want to share our mission. So our mission, we're here to create a space where faith-filled leaders like you can align your gifts, your values and calling so that you can lead with authenticity, lead with courage, and lead with kingdom purpose in mind. And to do that wherever God has placed you. So that's whether God has placed you, in whatever industry you're in or whatever leadership you happen to operate through. So, that's what we want to invite you into. So today we're going to look at a number of things. So number one we're going to look at is reframing leadership. So why leadership belongs to all of us, not just those with fancy titles. Now, come on, let's be honest. You've got to admit, I think there are some of us have some really fancy titles, right? Okay, so it's not about the title, it's about who you are. We're also going to be looking at marketplace assignment defined. So we're going to touch on how you can identify your calling, your gifts and opportunity. I'm going to take you through a very short kind of self-reflection activity, kind of a hands-on exercise to help you to kind of discover your assignment a bit more fully. I'm going to share a very quick client story, which I'm hoping will be kind of a real life inspiration to show you what is possible. I'm going to share some practical tools, some data, giving you kind of some evidence and resources to support you on your journey. So I'll scatter them throughout our time together. And then finally, I'm going to invite you to your call to take action. So the next steps for those ready to move forward. So that's what we've got today, quite a lot in a short space of time. So let's start. Okay, reframing leadership. Now, leading isn't just for CEOs or those with big titles, okay? It's for anyone who's entrusted with influence. So I'm going to say that again. Leading isn't just for CEOs or those with big titles, it's for anyone who's entrusted with influence. So that includes you. Okay, so that includes you. Now, the Bible gives us, and feel free, drop any comments. Obviously, I'm going to be asking you questions, but drop any comments, any questions that you may have, just drop them in the chat as we go through, and I'll be picking those up. I'll be keeping my eye on the chat and picking those up. Okay, so the Bible gives us many examples of leadership. Let's just take Joseph, for instance, going back to Genesis 41. Now, he led from prison to palace, and Genesis charts you through, his adventure into leadership. Or we can look at Deborah in Judges 4. Now, she led Israel without actually having an army rank, which was really unusual in any ways of imagination, really unusual. So these people, they were actually called to lead, not to lead because of their title. So they were actually called into leadership for who they are, not because of any specific title. Now, for me, the key point in all of that is that leadership is all about stewardship. It involves using, your gifts to serve and to serve well in the place that God has positioned you. So it's kind of using whatever is in your hand in the place where God has positioned you, wherever He's positioned you. So I think that's an important point. So if you agree with that, let me know. Wow, that's an important point. Okay, but why does any of this matter? Well, Gallup research shows that, and I love this. Those of you who know me know I like a bit of statistics, okay? But Gallup research shows that people are 70% more engaged when their work aligns with their personal mission. So there's two things in that, is knowing what your personal mission is and finding a way to align that with the work that you do, okay? But 70% more engaged when those two are in alignment. Also, Deloitte says that leaders with a strong sense of purpose are 13 times more likely to be engaged and 27 times less likely to burn out. I think that's quite amazing. So, high engagement, less burnout by making sure that you have a strong sense of purpose and you align your personal mission with what you do. So I think for me, this just goes to show that calling isn't just about the spiritual. It's actually strategic. It's actually a strategic advantage. So calling isn't just spiritual, it's a strategic, strategic, strategic. I can't think what the word was then, but advantage, strategic advantage. But when you kind of align faith and leadership, performance and purpose go hand in hand. Okay, so aligning your faith with your leadership, performance and purpose go hand in hand. So I'm hoping that you're thinking, gosh, that's quite interesting. Okay, moving on to what is this marketplace assignment? What is your marketplace assignment? So let's kind of define a little bit about what I mean. So, marketplace is your sphere of influence, okay? It's your sphere of influence. So, whether that's in your job, whether that's in your business, your team, or in whatever environment you inhabit. So, your marketplace is your sphere of influence, wherever you have influence. And your assignment is what God has created you to do. Now, some people might think, oh, yeah, but we're in business and, that belongs in church. And what I would say is, as a believer, God has all of our life, including our work and what we do in terms of our spiritual practice. It's all of that. So God it's about, how He's gifted you and where your calling intersects with opportunity. So your assignment is what God has created you to do. It's how He's gifted you. It's where your calling intersects with opportunity. Now, just as a sideline, I think it's important to kind of put this on the table, especially when we're in leadership. Sometimes you are required to make opportunity happen. Okay, so sometimes you're kind of kind of stirred, I guess, to go out to look at things, to pull things together and make opportunity happen. Other times they just show up. Opportunities just present themselves. Okay, so, but the most important thing is whether you have to make them happen or part of that process or they just show up. The important thing is to recognize opportunities when they're in front of you. That's the most important thing. So always be on the lookout for opportunities. Think about this dynamic like a triangle. Okay, we've got gifting, we've got calling, and we've got opportunity. Okay, so just as a quick reminder about gifting, because these include things like, and I'm going to give you some ideas ideas from the Bible. So I would suggest that you make a little bit of a note of any of these if they resonate with you as I say them, okay? Because you just might need them in a moment, okay? So I'm just going to go through just some of the giftings laid out in Scripture and just make a note of them for our next activity. Okay, so if we look at Romans, we got things like, prophecy, so speaking truth boldly, so speaking truth boldly. We've got serving, which is about meeting practical needs. We've got teaching, clarifying truth and or helping others to understand. We've got encouragement or exhortation. This is about strengthening and inspiring others. So you might just be thinking, hey, I've got a bit of that, I've got a bit of that. Giving. So, generously sharing resources, but doing that joyfully. Leadership or administration, guiding others with vision or with diligence. So you've got that way to bring people forward. Mercy, showing compassion, deep compassion and care for people. And that's just in Corinthians. Sorry, in Romans. If you look at Corinthians, you get things like knowledge, you get wisdom, faith, healing. There's a whole load of stuff, discernment. So there's lots of gifts, lots of gifts. So your marketplace assignment lives where all three intersect. Okay, so where your gifts, your calling, and an opportunity intersect. So let me just tell you a quick story to illustrate the point. Okay, so I hope you made a note of some of those, but let me just give you a quick story to illustrate a point. So I'm going to tell you about Sarah. Now, Sarah was a client on our Gifted for Action pathway. Now, Sarah worked in finance. She was really, really good at her job. However, she didn't feel spiritually fulfilled. So she felt spiritually unfulfilled doing that job, even though she could do that and do that well. Although inside, she always had a bit of a nudge or a kind of stirring to serve and mentor others. So that's what she had stirring within her. Now, when she actually started to align her gifts and calling with her day-to-day role, the opportunity, she launched a mentoring program within her company. She also prioritised relational leadership over other leadership styles. And not only did her confidence skyrocket, but her team's trust and innovation grew as well. And she reported that there was a 25% increase in the way people engaged within her department, in her sphere of influence. Now, what's really, really great though, is that that shift didn't just kind of help her lead better at work. It actually helped her to live out her calling, which was to guide, support, and inspire others. So I'm hoping that you can see that. Your calling might be one thing, and then you could look for those opportunities within your work or what you do to bring to match calling, gifts, and opportunity to make that happen. So I hope that kind of makes sense. If that makes sense to you, to drop me, emoji or something in the chat so you kind of go, oh, right, I think I know what you're talking about. So just drop that in there so I know I'm making some sense. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. That's good. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to give us some time. Fantastic, makes absolute sense. Now I want to give you some time just to kind of pause and reflect, okay? So we're going to take a few minutes and I'm just going to use these three quick prompts that are on the screen. So as we go through them, type them in your notes, share them in the chat, which will be my preference so I can see what your thinking process is. But we're going to go through them one at a time. So the first thing is, what are your top three gifts? Okay, so you might remember them, you might have made a note of them from some of the things we just spoke about in a moment. So what are some of the gifts that are mentioned? What are your top three gifts? Or another way of looking at it is, what do others often thank you for? Yeah, so what are your top three gifts, or what is it that others often thank you for? If you could drop that in the chat for me. What are your top three gifts, or what do others often thank you for? That's just a quick thought, a quick thought on that. Your top three gifts, what do others thank you for? And yeah, so let's have a look and see what you come up with. So if I was thinking about myself, then I think teaching would come up in there in terms of that ability to help people to understand things. People often talk about my boldness in saying what is true or what is obvious, so that could come up in there. And also, I guess creativity comes up, but more in terms of administration and leading projects. So those would be things that could come up, and people often would maybe come to me for some of those things. Okay, so we've got people mostly thank me for giving good advice. Okay, so that could be wrapped up in exhortation, it could be wrapped up in that prophetic word as well, and helping selflessly. So that whole giving of resources, so there's quite a few gifts wrapped up in there. That's brilliant. I love that. Still thinking? Good. Okay, being an encourager. Okay, and helping them with discernment. So there's two things there. There's that encouragement that you do, but also that gift of discernment to be able to look at something and know right from wrong, good from not so good, those kind of things. And seeing the fine details. So having somebody who can actually look at stuff and discern what is and what is not are really good things. So they're amazing. I love those. So I want you to keep those in mind as we move on to number 2. So number 2 says, what problems do you feel drawn to solve? Okay, what's in front of you? What are the things that you kind of get passionate about? The things that maybe get your heart rate going a little bit. So what are the problems that you feel drawn to solve? So what is it that stirs your heart? What is it that stirs your heart? So again, drop those thoughts in the chat so we can see what your thought patterns are. Okay, so what problems do you feel drawn to? I guess there's lots of things that I kind of see, like, oh, it could be done differently or it could be done better. I guess the big one for me is this whole thing about compartmentalization, how many believers kind of we do spiritual at the weekend, and then we do work Monday to Friday, and it's like never the twain shall meet. Whereas kind of my thinking is actually, if God is in your life, he's in all of your life. And so how do we break down those kind of compartmentalizations and lead authentically and fully across all of our lives? So that's my little thing. Okay, what have we got? I hate people seem worried, so I always want them to feel better about whatever's worrying them. That's really lovely. So really that whole mercy, compassion, serving is wanting people to feel better and alleviating worry from others. That's really lovely. That's really nice. So anything else in terms of what problems do you feel drawn to serve? Okay, so this is good. So when people are stuck, helping them to see their value and the gifts that are within them. Oh, that's beautiful. So coaching people, bringing so coaching people, helping them in their development journey, and bringing order to disorder. So that whole administration and setting clear direction, they're amazing things. So that's really cool. So again, hold all of that as we go into the final question. Well, question number 3 anyway. So question number 3 says, what places or circumstances do people seek out your leadership or seek out your advice? There may be certain things that people tend to come to you for, or particular places or circumstances that people seek out your leadership or advice. So another way of looking at it is, where are you already showing up? Where are you already showing up? So again, put your thoughts in the chat so we can hear your thought processes. So what places or circumstances do people kind of seek out your leadership or advice? So where are you already showing up? That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. So it's funny, but I know often I get asked, in church circles, is it okay to bring who I am at church outside of church at work? Or other times I may get asked, well, I do all this stuff in the workplace, but my church don't seem to want it or know that about me. So I do think it's just talking to that whole compartmentalization is a lot of things that people tend to come to me for, or ideas, or again a bit like what's been said here. It's like, we've got this problem, can you see a way through it? So looking for ideas. What have we got? In a crisis. Yay. So when there's a crisis and people know exactly where to go to, so this is where they find there's a leadership void, and you're often called in to steady the ship, and then somebody else comes and takes over. So we have to think about that part, because obviously there's some frustration. So it's kind of like, and that reminds me of scripture when it says, like, is it that Timothy or Paul, somebody watered, but then somebody else came and did the reaping. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes part of our role is to bring the order so that somebody else can continue the journey. But that's not always the case, but that's an interesting one. So yes, it's crisis, steady the ship, and but the good thing is recognizing that actually this is a gifting. And if we can see that we are the problem solver, and people see that, and we can do more of that, more problems will get righted, and more systems be put in place to make things better going forward, because they know that you're the go-to person to make that happen. So that's amazing. I love that. So just for a moment, just quickly, I'm aware of time. So just quickly for a moment, let's take a moment just to stop and reflect about what's being shared, about what kind of process has gone through you, so what you've been thinking about yourself. And I'd like to just ask you just to share one or two discoveries that you've gained just from taking that small bit of time out just to reflect. Okay, so again, just overall, what stands out for you? What's a bit of an aha moment? What's kind of like, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that. So like one of them could be, oh, I'm beginning to recognize that actually I have a gifting in that particular thing. So what stands out for you? What's an aha that you can drop in the chat for me, just from just taking a few minutes just to think a little bit differently? So that'd be good. And what I'm hoping is maybe, if you can just put, an outline of what we're talking about for you, maybe we can get to hear more about your experience at the end of the session when the cameras stop rolling. But for now, if you could just highlight your discovery in the chat for us, that'd be great. So what have you noticed? What are you noticing? That's fantastic. I'm loving that. Great. So just an aha, it's just like, oh my goodness. But I do like that one, you know. And that just makes me think that, again, the word kind of tells us that, we are all kind of parts in the big master picture. Okay, we just got our parts to play in the whole master plan, and trying to understanding where our assignment fits and be able to do that bit well would allow other people to do their assignment, and the whole tapestry of God would look amazing. But anyway, that's just my thinking. Anyway, so continue thinking about any aha moments or any questions, drop them in the chat. Now, to help you go into this a bit further, I've created two tools. So is called the Calling Activation Worksheet, and that guides you through uncovering your marketplace assignment in a little bit more detail. So just give you some real thinking time and to think about things in different ways. And then also number two, a marketplace assignment map that places your gifts, your calling and opportunities visually, so you can see your sweet spot. So I've dropped the marketplace assignment map in the chat. So if you want to just click on that, and then that will download on your computer, so you can go and pick that up and have a play with that once we got through to the session. And then the other one, I will make sure I get sent out to you, because that's a bit more detail. So I'll get that one sent out. So what have we got? Gift plus opportunities. Okay. Wow, I love that. So the whole idea, so an aha moment, okay, it's like the whole idea of gift plus opportunity. So just over the last few weeks and earlier this week, you've had actually confirming conversations about your coach mentoring passion. I love that. And you've actually taken an opportunity that normally you would have let go by. We definitely want to stick around the end, because I want to hear about that one. You know what I'm like. But that sounds amazing. I love that. That's fantastic. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, let's move on. Okay, that's really good. Okay, so what I'm hoping, if today has stirred something in you, and there's a sense that there's yet more that could be activated in your leadership, if that's that for you, then I invite you to book a business faith reset session, which is a personal 40-minute space just to explore and align your gifts, calling, and impact. So please use the QR code on the screen to book some time in my diary, if you haven't done so already. Okay, and so just do that, and we'll have that conversation. Okay, so that'd be fantastic. Or you can use the link in the chat, and/or consider joining our Faith Inspired Leadership membership community. This is where you're going to gain ongoing tools, resources, and peer support, which is really important. So feel free just to direct message me for more information about our membership community and how you can join us. Now, for me, I want you to remember another thing. God has not brought you this far just to leave you where you are. Okay, God has not brought you this far just to leave you where you are. So let's bring that clarity, that courage to your next step. And I definitely would love to support you on that journey. So again, if there are any questions or any more comments, please just drop them in the chat, because I'm reading them, I'll pick them up. Okay, so we've covered, I'm just looking at time, we've covered quite a lot today, okay? So thank you for your interaction. Thank you for those statements. Have been brilliant. Your answers have been fantastic. Okay, so we've covered quite a lot, journal, insights, your gifting triangle, practical tools, and some next steps. So I'd love to hear what's one new insight that you've gained today. So one more, I'm always like, and there's more. So one new insight that you've gained today, drop that in the chat for me. And yeah, just feel free to do that. And remember, as we get ready to close out, and this might be something you've not heard before, but you were created for more than just a paycheck. You were created for more than just a paycheck. God has placed you exactly where you are to lead with purpose, to lead with confidence, and to lead with grace. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really do. I'm really grateful for your time and your presence. And those of you who are going to listen on the replay, please get in touch. That would be amazing too. But just before we close out, because community matters, our Faith Inspired Leadership membership group is open, and it's designed to help you steward your call into leadership with ongoing tools, coaches, and community. So if it sounds like where you belong, then just drop a yes in the chat or direct message me on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure that I send you the details. And also, just, let's have a look what we've got taken up. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that because I'm loving that. And also just remind you that I'm going to be sending out the calling activation worksheet by email very soon. So do look out for that. So what have we got? Taking the opportunity to align my faith with work or job and lead with purpose. So those are things you've taken away. That's fantastic, because they're the main message that I want people to get. This is really good. So on that note, I'm just checking whether there's anything else in the chat. I think I've gone through everything in there. Seriously, thank you so much. That's brilliant. Until next time, I want to encourage you to lead with confidence, to lead with purpose, but most importantly, lead with your faith. Okay? So until next time, take care and God bless. So I'm going to just turn that recording off. Do that.